What does Shemitah mean?
The Shemitah it's an ancient Hebrew word, and it goes back 3,000 years, and it is the every seventh year in the Bible was a Sabbath year. People know about the Sabbath day. A lot of people don't know about the Sabbath year. So every seventh year, there was no reaping, no sowing, no touching of the land. The whole land would rest. There was no buying or selling of anything of the land. And the last day of the Shemitah year, the entire year, when it reaches its peak, it was called Elul 29, and that's basically the Hebrew month Elul, 29th day. On that day, all debt is wiped out, all credit's wiped out, all the financial accounts of the nation is wiped out. Now, this was supposed to be a blessing, but when Israel turned away from God, the Bible says this Shemitah became a sign of judgment on a nation that has driven God out of its life, that's fallen away from God, and that strikes the financial realm of that nation. And so when Israel was finally destroyed in 586 BC, when the Babylonians came in, it's called the Babylonian captivity. They were taken for 70 years into exile, and the land rested. And the Bible says that this was according to the mystery of the Shemitah, meaning that the land would rest for all the times this nation broke it. It would rest for 70 years. So the Shemitah becomes this sign of a nation that has turned away from God. Now, the thing is, here's the thing, George. When I wrote The Harbinger, one of the mysteries that began was this thing called the Shemitah. But I really had no idea how big this was until very recently, and this whole book, The Mystery of the Shemitah, was a surprise. I didn't plan on writing this. It was so big. This mystery is behind the rise and fall of the stock market, the rise and fall of the economy, the rise and fall of nations, even the rise of America, and what can be the fall of America. It is behind global cataclysms like the First World War, the Second World War, the atomic age. I mean, it is so big. It has been affecting everyone listening, all of us, since the day we were born. I mean, it is a secret, really, in the Bible of the timing of cataclysms, and it's amazing. I mean, every realm it's affecting, and which I'm sure we'll get into. We're coming to the next Shemitah this month, so we'll talk about that too. Yeah, and I believe we have to be ready.
Does the Shemitah predict the future?
I believe it does, because I mean, not that you can put everything into a box, and not that it has to happen every time, and according to our calendar. But this mystery is so specific, and we'll see. It actually gives dates. It gives. It has actually foretold the crashing of Wall Street, I mean, throughout the 20th century, and even down to the days, to the hours, to the minutes, and to the seconds. I mean, that's how precise this is. So it's kind of given the right circumstances, it manifests. And I believe we are right now in, I'll say right circumstances or wrong, we are at a very dangerous moment in this. And George, you have people who spend fortunes trying to find out what the stock market's going to do. Well, this is amazing because truly, and I'll show you how it does. It has determined it. I mean, time after time after time, and even events such as 9/11, even events such as the attack of terror. So with the one caveat that you can't put God in a box, but given the circumstances, this mystery is so precise that I'm cautious about giving dates. But in the book, I actually do give dates. But with it doesn't have to happen that way, but it may very likely, because this is the pattern.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll give you some examples here. First of all, the one of the keys to unlocking this mystery first is this 7-year cycle. That's the first thing. The second thing is this date that I mentioned, Elul 29, when everything was wiped out in the financial realm. The other thing is the Hebrew month called Tishri, which is around September, October. I mean, we're entering into it, and that's the month in this mystery that would manifest this financial wipeout. That's the peak month of the year called the Shemitah. Now, here are some things just to get a taste of this. First of all, in the last 50 years, or I'll say last 40 years, we have had 5 major financial collapses or long-term collapses. I'm talking about often leads to recession, but the stock market reaches its peak and collapses. 5 of them. One was in 1973, second in 1980, third in 1987, fourth in 2000, and fifth in 2007, the Great Recession. Now, if you look at that, just without knowing anything, you've got 1973 to 80.
And we don't count 2001, or do we?
Here's the thing. The Shemitah, it doesn't go according to the Western calendar, so it actually goes from September to September. So it is going to go into 2001. Here's the thing. With all these things, you got 73 to 80. That's a 7-year cycle. 80 to 87. The next crash cycle, 7-year cycle. 2000, 2007 cycle, 7 years. And not only are they 7-year cycles, but they are the exact 7-year cycles of the ancient Shemitah. So in other words, the economy has crashed every single time in the last 40 years. Every single major long-term crash has happened according to this ancient mystery, which has to do with the crashing of the economy to start with, it will also include 9/11, which I'll touch on. But now, George, if you look at the top and say a bigger picture, look at the top greatest crashes, long-term crashes of the entire 20th century. And I'll include the Great Depression and other. Mm-hmm. The majority of them happen in the year of the Shemitah. The majority. And for instance, with the Great Depression, it reaches its peak in 1931 is considered the peak. When the Shemitah reaches its peak at this exact day, it ushers in the greatest month-long collapse in American history and of the Great Depression. The second of the greatest long-term crashes was 2007 and 2008. Well, 2007 and 2008, the Great Recession, is the exact time period of the Shemitah. Exactly. The number 3 is 1937-1938 crash, and this is what happens here. The Shemitah begins. The next day, Wall Street collapses.
Oh, that's my gosh.
It's exact. And if you go, here's another thing. If you go, for instance, to the single-day crashes, like look at not some of the big crashes, but look at the greatest single-day crashes, and are any of them linked to the Shemitah? The answer is the majority of them. The majority of them. In fact, the majority of the greatest crashes take place all clustered around one time of the year, and that one time of the year is that month, I said, is the month of Tishri, which is the month that's ordained from ancient times for these crashes. And, one thing, I don't know if you've noticed, and people who look at the stock market, there's always been this mystery that around the time of autumn, September, October, come all these great crashes, Black Monday, Black Tuesday, and for ages, economists have been trying to figure out what's the reason, and they thought it was because the farmers were getting paid at that time, but that changed, so nothing has ever stuck. But the amazing thing is that's the exact time, that September-October period is the month of Tishri, which is ordained from 3,000 years ago in the Bible, that this is the time when this wipeout happens. And if you look at, for instance, the Great Depression, Black Monday is Tishri 24, Black Tuesday, Tishri 25. 1987, Black Monday, the wipeout, one of the greatest actually percentage stock market crash, is Tishri 26. So they're all, in fact, the majority, or 60%, the majority of the greatest single-day crashes, percentage crashes, all cluster around 18 days on the biblical calendar. They all happen with it, and it's the time that is linked to Tishri. I mean, and that goes against all odds, but it is exactly what is ordained in this mystery. I'll give you another one here, and this is just the beginning, because the financial realm is just the beginning. This affects history and everything else.
Right, not just financial stuff.
Yeah. I mean, even even terror attacks, even world wars, even Hitler. I mean, I'm going to just touch on some of the things, but one of them, for instance, this date, this key date, Elul 29, which is when this wipeout is ordained. If you look at the top 5, now I'm talking about point crashes, so this is volume crashes. The top 5 stock market point crashes in history, all of them, or how many are linked or happen right around this date of Elul 29? 100% of them.
100%.
100. In fact, 2 of them happen on the day. 100% of them. And when you look at the proximity of these great crashes, the ratio is over 99% close to this day.
Do you have the date for the next crash, Jonathan?
Okay. I will. I promise you, George.
We will get it. Okay.
I promise you, we'll get towards that. I'm not saying that it has to happen, but I will say when this period is. And the thing about it also is that this phenomenon is intensifying, and that's one of the things that could be very scary for people. It's getting more and more intense, and I'll show you how this is. In the year 2001, and you alluded to it, but that was not only the time of 9/11, that was also the greatest point crash in American history. That up to that date, it was actually caused by 9/11. It was September 17th. Greatest crash. When did the greatest crash in American history take place? It happened on the day of the Shemitah, Elul 29, exactly down to the hours, the day appointed to wipe out the financial accounts and link to a nation in danger of judgment. That's the first thing. But then that record lasted for years until it was finally broken in the collapse of the Great Recession in 2008. And that happened in September. And so what you have there, it happened on September 29th, 2008. You got the greatest crash in American history to this day. And what happened is when they went into Wall Street that morning, they went to ring the bell, but the bell refused to ring, literally. Literally. And the people
what
on
an
Wall
omen.
Street, yeah, they took it as an omen. And you had that is the absolute greatest crash in American history. And it broke the record. Well, when did that take place? That greatest other crash happened on the exact same ancient day appointed in the Bible, Elul 29, the day of nullification. The 2 greatest crashes in American history each happened on the exact same day. That's beyond odds. And they each happened 7 years apart, according to the mystery. In fact, 7 biblical years apart, down to the day, down to the hour, down to the minute, down to the second. I mean, exactly as ordained. And George, this thing has been ordained from the time of Moses. That's how amazing it is. And nobody could have put this together. And on top of it, and this is also a warning, and because we are, as we're saying, I promise you we're getting to where we're going. But the thing is that you got this really amazing thing, too, because one of the things about the Shemitah is it's this mystery of sevens. It's about 7 year. It's the 7th month. It's all these sevens. That's the key of it. And you find the fingerprints of this mystery because when you look at the greatest crash in 2001, that when that happened because of 9/11, how much of Wall Street was wiped out? 7% of Wall Street was wiped out. In 2008, how much was wiped out? 7% was wiped out. How many points were wiped out in 2008? 777. I mean, it's filled with that. It's filled with that. So it is something that has been progressing. It's actually getting more and more intense, and that's why, as we're leading up, to what's coming, and again, I'm not, going to say it has to happen in this particular way, but we are very shortly beginning the next Shemitah year, and the pattern. I'll talk about the future. The pattern tends to be it is at the end of the year, according to the biblical pattern, that it builds to this crescendo. But one of the mysteries here is that in Hebrew, the word for Shemitah literally means the collapse. I mean, it can be translated a few ways, but one of the ways is the fall or the collapse. And the warning is not only of a financial thing, but because what we're going to see also is that America itself, its rise and its potential fall are all also timed to the Shemitah. And so it is a warning of a coming collapse, not just of the financial realm, but a potential collapse of America.